Hi, this is Eternal King here bringing you another LOR video today. So I've got some gameplay up today of about 26 minutes of Lurk wins. If you're a big Lurk player or you like watching people play Lurk, then go ahead and watch that video. I basically optimized Lurk for the Eternal format. It is objectively the best version of Lurk. Similar to a lot of my other decks where it's like the best version of Rise and again, the best version of Annie Aggro, the best version of Azir Aurelia. Eternal is a format that I have a very firm grasp on, and I can just effectively say that these versions of these decks are just objectively better than other versions. But what I want to talk about today, kind of similar to our subject on deck ratioing, is card selection. So this is something I take for granted. I was playing some casual games in Eternal today, and what I noticed is that people were struggling to build a cohesive version of Yasuo Katarina. It was a very strange thing because Yasuo Katarina is a deck that has been upgraded recently thanks to Steel Gale. And again, I keep talking about this card, but this card is amazing for Ionia. Again, Yasuo has been firmly upgraded thanks to Steel Gale, and people just seem to be struggling to build a cohesive Yasuo shell. And a lot of that comes down to what I would refer to as decision paralysis. So if I type in stun into the card finder, there are so many cards that say stun in Legends of Runeterra, right? Like, look at all of these stun cards. What am I supposed to put in my stun deck when everything says stun in Eternal? When there's a million cards that all say stun, what am I actually supposed to put in my Yasuo deck that is above average or decent? I'm going to help you with that a little bit. So part of it is card evaluation, and part of it is not overthinking the process. And part of it is just having experience with the format and knowing what is good. So the best Eternal decks, best Yasuo deck, the best Eternal decks essentially combine elements from all expansions and all seasons. And no archetype's been around longer than Yasuo, right? So Flock is a vanilla card that says deal 4 damage if a unit is stunned. Well, most people know to put Flock in. They've got that much figured out. Flock is very necessary. It allows you to cash in on Katarina's dagger. It allows you to cash in on stuns. It is a mandatory card. Increasingly, the Mourned has become popular for Yasuo as a turbo level up one drop. So again, it's good into aggro because you can just take the aggro block if you want to. It's good for Yasuo because it recalls and it turbos Yasuo. So the Mourned is pretty common. And the same thing with Vastaean Disciple. It's a cycling tool and it turbos Yasuo. So people understand to run these 3 1-mana cards. I think. Universally they understand that. The next card is they universally understand how to run Blade Twirler. Blade Twirler's been around since vanilla. It says when you stun or recall a unit, grant me 2+0. So a lot of people play very aggressively with the Blade Twirler. I don't necessarily think that's correct, but Blade Twirler is still a necessary card in this archetype. It's very good. Now things, again, Arachnoid Sentry. I think everyone knows to run Arachnoid Sentry in your Yasuo deck. I think you run this over the 2-mana Spider. The 2-mana Spider is just a 1/1 body. For 1 more mana, you get a 3/2 body, which is much, much better most of the time. There's very few instances where I cannot think of the 3/2 body being better than a 1/1 body. So people know Arachnoid Sentry, staple Yasuo card. It's a staple value card. They also run it in Swain. It's just a good card. Katarina, of course, Steel Gale's the new one, right? So the thing people forget about Steel Gale is that because it is a fast speed Gravitum, it triggers Yasuo's removal twice. So even if Yasuo isn't leveled, it turbo levels him because it procs Yasuo twice. It's 2 stuns, one on one turn, one on the other. But if Yasuo is on the board, he will hit for 2 and then hit for 2 again, which means he's actually doing 4 damage for 3, which is like what a stun card should do in a Yasuo shell, is that you should at least be doing 4 damage with your stun card. Concussive Palm, again, people know this card. It's a staple card. It's like a reverse version of Arachnoid Sentry. Instead of getting the 3/2 and getting the stun effect at slow speed, you're getting the fast speed effect and the 3/2 body. So people know to run Concussive Palm. I think people have gotten that far. I like Thorn of the Rose, right? Thorn of the Rose is a 5/1. that is essentially a cycle tool that gives you a guile. So people might disagree with me. I think Thorn of the Rose is pretty stonks in Yasuo. People have kind of forgotten about this card. I think it's very good. If people try to tempo out big stuff on you, or like Eddie decks or whatever, a Thorn of the Rose will trade into a blocking Badger Bear, right? Like the person, you know, the Eddie player plays a blocking Badger Bear on 3, they're trying to tempo you out. You're just like, here's my Thorn of the Rose that cycles. You want to attack with your blocking Badger Bear? Like, great defensive card. Very good defensive card. Especially if you think that the opponent's deck is going to be light on pings. And even if it isn't light on pings, you're still cycling for the Guile, which is fine, and that's just removal for your Yasuo anyway. So again, Thorn of the Rose, very, very good. So all of that is pretty auto-include. Like in my mind, when I'm building a deck, I look at this, and I've been playing the game since Rising Tides. I'm just like, okay, well here's, you know, the new stuff, here's the middle of the pack stuff, and then here's the old stuff. And that's kind of how you should be building Yasuo out. And then Whispering Words, of course, you want your draw in Yasuo to include creatures and spells. So you just run Whispering Words as a 4-mana draw 2. I think most people know that you run Whispering Words in Yasuo. I like one Rootbound Path. I think one Rootbound Path balances out the list nicely. It's just a little extra draw on the Yasuo shell, because sometimes it's just, you need more. And so I'm pretty happy just to run this as a one-of. And then, yeah, you have your Yasuo boat. Again, if you're playing Yasuo and you're not running the landmark, you're not playing Yasuo, right? I think people got this figured out as well, is you run the Yasuo boat in your Yasuo deck. It also combos off with Katarina with her rallies, so I think people know to run this. And then after that, it's a little more up to you. I'm going to run Yone for the flavor. It's old school, 6 mana, stun 2 things. But again, that's totally up to you. I think in a mid-range shell like this, it's nice to have a little bit of beef. It's nice to have the 6 mana card. You know, Eddie's got his 6 mana plays. We have our 6 mana play. And our 6 mana play kind of counters what the Eddie 6 mana play does. So it's kind of nice that way too. Yeah, so again, like that's, for me, like that's all just auto built. Like I was playing against somebody who was really struggling to build out the Yasuo list. They lost into me like twice or 3 times, and I was playing different decks. And I'm just like, you're overthinking it. It's not that hard to build a cohesive Yasuo deck. It is just basically this. And that is kind of, when you get used to the game, you get past that sort of, oh no, there's too many cards in Eternal, I don't know what to run kind of decision paralysis. And all of a sudden you just start kind of, you know, you enter the matrix and you kind of tune into exactly how you should build a deck. And you can do this in like 5 minutes and just jump on ladder and be like, at least with an archetype as old as this, it shouldn't take you that long to build Yasuo. Yasuo is not a new archetype. Other decks are more complicated. Yasuo is not complicated. This will do you just fine. You can just run this nice mid-range Yasuo curve with the right amount of draw and spells and creatures and turbo level up and all that stuff, and you'll be just fine. You'll be laughing the whole way. But yeah, that's it. Again, feel free to take a look at my Lurk video if you want gameplay for today. Got a good solid 20 minutes on there, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about card selection, the right way to select which card you want to be running in a certain archetype. We'll use another example here, like Undir. Undir is not a complicated archetype either. A lot of it is auto build, you know, stuff like Omen Hawk. I really like Tellstones. I like Three Sisters. I like Inner Beast. I like Mystic Shot. I like Vulpine Wanderer. I like Snowdog, Scholarly Pioneer, Bladebound Berserker, and then Victor, Undir, All-Seer, and Shaman's Call, and I'll even run Eye of the Storm for like more dedicated draw. Again, like it doesn't really take that long to once you've keyed into how these decks are supposed to function and what they're supposed to do to build out these archetypes. Certain archetypes are very hard to build out. So like the Rise list took me multiple tries. I think I posted something like 3 or 4 variations on Runeterra AR until I got this perfected Rise variant. But now that I have it, it's just solid. It's just like one of the best, I guess, casual killers in the game, right? People want to play their like fun, memey casual decks, and Rise is just going to chew straight through that. Uh, but yeah, you know, again, try not to get too paralyzed when you're selecting cards for your deck, and try not to overthink it too much. You know, Darkness, it's like, well, yeah, you're going to run the new Glare card in Darkness. You're going to run Pokestick in Darkness. You're going to run Glimpse in Darkness. You're going to run the Darkness card in Darkness. Twisted Catalyzer in Darkness. More Darkness. Then you have your landmark removal. Then you have your mana reduction on Darkness and Vigar and Senna. And, you know, Rekindler to bring back Vigar after it dies. And, like, you know, some of this stuff could probably get ratioed down for something else. But, like, at the end of the day, you don't have to overthink it that much. For these established archetypes, a lot of these established archetypes, more or less, autopilot, they know what they're doing, they're quite strong at it, and essentially don't overthink what is already good, right, and powerful. There's really no reason to, probably two of these guys, um, there's no reason to overthink, you know, how you're building out these archetypes, if once you have kind of enough experience, right? But the main thing is just don't overthink it. Run the cards you know are good. Run the cards you knew were good in the past. So run the new stuff with the old stuff and the stuff that came out in the middle of the pack. And essentially, you're in Eternal. You're going to have the best of all worlds when it comes to what your deck is capable of. So a lot of when I'm, you know, labeling these decks, I'm just calling it like Darkness upgraded, Yasuo upgraded, Rise upgraded, Azirarelia upgraded, because I'm just like, all right, well, I just know that these new versions with the new cards are just better. They're just flat out better across the board. And I'm starting to find that people are just kind of like, for a while people used to troll me and they were like, oh man, this guy, you know, we're gonna beat him up in Eternal or whatever, and now they're just kind of giving up because I'm essentially the best player in the format. You can't troll the best player in the format. I kind of wrote in the book on what it takes to be good at Eternal, and if you follow my advice, I think you'll find that you'll do well also. All right, this is Eternal King signing out.